Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Back to review some stories to Benight, Beguile, obviously. This is Book 5, Chapter 13, Mysteries and Miseries. Gregory and Aurora are in his apartment, sorry. And they're having a conversation about Evie's funeral, and obviously Aurora is still in a bit of a shock, though she does want to move on from certain things. Like the death of her other baby, which was a girl, or supposed death of another baby of her baby, which that baby did not die. Gregory got Ashia to take it away, and Gregory convinced Aurora that the baby died. Um, really interesting. You also have, them having this conversation about how Gregory helped Ashia, and here's the person that helped deliver your baby that died, and Ashia. There's a Aurora realizes there's a deeper connection between Gregory and Ashia. So it raises sort of, she's sort of somewhat suspicious. I won't say she's completely suspicious. Um, she does tell Gregory, you know, they both love each other, okay? And, again, though Aurora wants to move on, when you look at the timeline of events of what's just all happened, okay, she lost the child, she lost the baby. That's what she's been told, which is a lie. She's also been told that her daughter got wrongfully committed again, and got killed in that sanitarium because there's this crazy witch named Jacqueline. So you have a lot of stuff going on with a lot of these characters, and there's a lot of loose ends, which is good because again, you want the hook to bring you back, and this is why I keep coming back because it's good. Um, oh my god. So let's see. So you meet Laurel, who's Dr. Ward's wife, and you also meet Dr. Ward's granddaughter, who, they're coming into the office, his office. She's carrying the baby. Laurel is carrying the baby in. I'll get my pronouns right here. Um, Laurel, you find out that Laurel was working for the Lord family at the time. She was also friends with Rebecca. And Peter's like, you were aware of their misfortune. Like, Peter chalks this up to, look, when a doctor looks at something from a fictitious standpoint, they look at it sort of like a scale. Like, you have your ups and downs in your families, and some people just have more downs than ups. But when they do have an up, it's really, really positive. I feel that's how Dr. Ward, he's not trying to. He doesn't seem like he's investigating even Evie's death, which is, to me, is very suspicious. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Laurel says, yeah, she was aware because Laurel even says, yeah, Rebecca blamed Eliza for Vivi's death, and she blames me for introducing him. She'd never want me near her. Times are different, she's in a different place in her life. Laura rolled her light brown eyes and turned to the window that shined a bright winter sun on her 65-year-old face. Um, I'm gonna read this. That still looked as smooth as a porcelain doll. Her hair a deep red that curled naturally at the tip. She took a breath almost as if it hurt and turned back to her husband and shook her head, thinking about the day little Vivi Lord died and the events that happened after. Events Ridgway Lord was directly connected to. Laurel, Peter said nothing. His wife days off. You okay? Oh, I was just thinking of how angry Rebecca would be if I showed up there to see her at the green. At the green, never. I won't do it. I told you. I'd be happy to write her, Laurel said, covering her for her trip down dark memory lane. And all right then. Peter said, handing Samantha back to Laurel. Let me check to see which bed she's in that your not gets where it's supposed to be. Your note gets where it's supposed to be. So, so really interesting. Um, so I'm going to read this part here that way. This is for Dr. Nick and Ashia. Meanwhile, over at a small nurse's station, standing together was Dr. Nicholas Jordan and his partner, Dr. Ashia Hoffman. Um, both still in a stunned state of mind after Evie's shocking death. Ashia did her best to console Nick. He blamed himself for her death. Nick was not given into any of her placations. I'll never, forgive myself. Nick said the sunny winter day, illuminating the white doctor's coat under his face. Nicky, you didn't do it. I saw the charts. Dr. Ward is looking through them today. 2. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary on your part. The nurse, she either read it wrong or did it on purpose. You would never do something to hurt Evie. We all know that. She replied, reaching for his hand. I sort of that is gonna get interesting. Like, how are they? Like, I wonder if somehow they're gonna find out about Jacqueline. We'll see. Shia, sorry, had a lot to make up for. She had lied to Nick about Alice Winterbourne, possibly believing somewhere she hid that she learned a strange and bizarre tale of Alice's native Denyan heritage of her being alive somewhere. Regardless of it, if it were true, they both knew that Alice and Matthew believed in their ancestral connection to reincarnation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you write. See, we don't see those characters here, but we're getting the mention of them. I've talked about this with Dark Shadows, how Dark Shadows mentions its characters when they're not necessarily around or primarily being used, but there's a mention of those characters to keep those characters fresh in your fucking mind. A writer, John Philip Bencourt. That's what you're supposed to do. Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to sure don't lose my place. Do anything to respect her and her beliefs. Nick felt he had the right to know this, and it broke his heart, knowing Ashia had kept the secret. For now, this lie by omission was water under the bridge. Ashia had done worse. She helped Gregory hide Aurora's baby. With Caspian under a new name, with Philip and Mary, the baby was Nick's half-sibling. Another secret, another lie that seemed to be snowballing as Ashia tried to keep her mind on Nick and not her betrayal to his family. She pulled him close and they both held both of his hands now in hers. I will always be here for you, and I will always be in your corner, she said, her dark eyes welling up with tears as he stared at her, knowing she did love him. He loved her too. Thank you. He said as he leaned in and kissed her on the lips, their warm touch melting away all of the secrets she was holding, all of the past they were still scared by. Now, just in a moment, Morning, Evie, and love each other. So, let's see. I know, Nick replied, I do it too. Evie would do the same for me. Someday, when your heads are clear, um, and the sadness has drifted off you, you'll have your memories of her, and that's the most important thing. As she added, um, Nick nodded, and there are so many wonderful memories as kids in England. She had this special way of always making me feel like I was the most important person in the room. At parties, when we'd be sitting in a room filled with some of the richest and most fascinating people in the world, all drinking and eating and dancing, she never she never let me drift off into boredom and was there for me. We were the best of friends, and nothing would ever make her see more differently. My champion, he recalled. So we also get here. Give me a second, guys. So Dr. Ward confronts Nicholas about letting Rebecca and Caspian out. That Caspian, is a danger, and Rebecca's illness. Because Dr. Ward sees it as seducer and victim. That Caspian, seduced Rebecca. Now, I will say that, you know, Nicholas, who was there, um, he knows that Caspian was committed by Father Ryan, Donovan Ryan, not by, the Lords. He says, hey, they agreed to meet with me, and Ward lets him know, hey, this falls back on the hospital. I'll see you're to blame. Your name's on there. I said, Dr. Ward's a little angry at him. Not too happy with him. So, why would he be? I'm going to read some of this here. In the far-off archipelago of Azores in North Atlantic, the mysterious man who washed up on the volcanic black rocks months ago and had lost his memory watched the busy villagers work throughout the day on their regular duties, and his tan skin seemed to glow like gold in the sun that was still high enough in the sky above the horizon to make him squint, but low enough to cast an orange sparkle over nearby sea. His thick black hair had as many waves as the sea, and his mind still searched for clues to his identity, anything that might point his mind in the direction to who he was. He wondered every single day that he was missing from his family, if they wondered if he'd ever come back, or if they'd given up hope and that he'd never ever be found, and feared him dead. In the months that he had been in Azores, he learned the customs of the kind, beautiful people who took him in and watched over him as his body recuperated while in a deep sleep from the days lost at sea. He learned some of their languages, Portuguese, and felt that he had become a small piece of their little ritual island community. They were so kind and welcoming to him. His new friends at Murrel's Sylvania and Lucas, but he still felt very out of place. He didn't know where exactly his home was, but the beautiful village, a small little island with a large volcano in the center, was not it. As the man watched as his ship slowly came into a port in the far-off distance of the island, he suddenly had a flash again of this beautiful face of the woman with the honey-brown hair, bright blue eyes, delicate hands. They reached for his face, and his memory of the man with no name blinked, and she was gone. He tried again and again to see her face, but just as quickly as it came, the memory was gone. bright like the sun. He said to himself under his breath, "What's this?" Lucas Morrill asked, preparing on the small road of the village. "I was standing here, and the ship out there was docking, and some reason it made me remember something," he said. "Another memory? That's wonderful. What was it? Your ship? Maybe the dock of your home?" "No, the woman again. She looked like summer. She looked like a bright ray of light," the man said. "She seems to haunt you. Every time you see her, you become a little sadder. You think it's your wife, a woman you loved. It must be. If she was that important to you to suddenly appear in your mind, she must have been someone you cared for deeply," Lucas said. "I wish I could remember more of her, or even of where she may be. It's been so difficult not to be able to know anything since I woke up," the man said. "Speaking about that, my mother and I were talking, and, well, that's why I came out here and interrupted you." The man turned to Lucas and Lucas cocked his head, somewhat confused. "What is it, Lucas continued. "It's been weeks since you've been awake, and we can't just keep calling you him or anything like that. We'd like to give you a name for now, of course, until you find who you really are. No one deserves to walk this earth without a proper name. It's silly, really, but we want you to be called something." The mysterious man smiled. "That's very kind. What should I be called?" Lucas smiled and only said, "Come inside the house." The two walked from the little village and back down to the road on the hillside, and back to the cottage below, to where Lucas, his mother, Sylvania, and the man with no name lived. As they entered, the older lady, Sylvania, sat in a big chair in a room near a hot fire. Her hair was long and gray, and fell around her shoulders. It was strange to see her with her hair this way. She only kept it tight in a bun. She smiled as her son, the man walked in and pointed to a large sofa. In front of him he sat, urging him to sit. He sat. Lucas stood behind his mother, looking nervous. "What we're going to tell you now, we kept from you all this time. We didn't want you to be frightened or feel as if we were some sort of charlatans trying to hurt you. We only want to help you." Sylvania then said in Portuguese that she hoped that his memory would have returned on its own, and that they wouldn't have had to resort to this, which Lucas reiterated in English to the man. "What does she mean?" the man asked. "She'd like to show you her the palm of your left hand," Lucas said. The man furrowed his brow, flipped over his left hand, and looked at it as quickly, then shown her with the quickness of a cobra bite. Sylvania pricked the middle finger of the man, draining blood. The pinch shocked him as he quickly pulled his hand back, his eyes confused. "Discipline menu for your unicorn Maria," she said to him in Portuguese. He understood this as her apologizing. Her face showed sincerely. "What did she want with pricking me?" the man said. "Watch," Lucas replied in a whisper. The woman showed the stained pin. It was only a speck trace of blood on the very tip of the pin, almost visible to the eye. If it wasn't for the fire burning bright inside them, they would have never seen the red stain shining in the light like the tiny ruby. Shinya then removed a necklace from under her white whole blouse that had a locket on the end of it in a tube form. She pulled out the thin cylinder from the locket and then dipped the pin with the man's blood into the tube and then watched it light up again with a small firefly. How How is this happening? The man said, as if he were watching a miracle. And the woman's eyes went white. Her hair began to sway in the breeze that didn't come through any window or any open door. She began to mouth a words that were unintelligible to anyone in the room. What's happening? What's going on with her? Sylvania, Sylvania, the man said, petrified by the woman's frightening trance state. It's okay. She's searching spirits for you. Your name, Lucas explained. In a strange way, it's spirits. Sylvania muttered. Lucas, speaking in Portuguese, encouraged his mother to keep pulling out the sounds of the man's name that the spirit world were sending her. The fire in her blew it. The room was completely dark. Sylvania was breathing heavily. Then the sun had gone down. Then there was silence. The man sat there in the dark, eyes wide, searching for any glimmer of light. The fire burst on again, the heart, lighting the room all on its own, like an explosive had gone off, and the faces of the three in the house were once again visible. The woman's eyes had returned to normal. Lucas stood up by his mother, who had a smile on her face. She has found your name, Lucas replied. How? How could she have? The man said in an almost terrified tone of voice, my mother is a special woman. She has a way of connecting to the world that is not our world. I know how strange it sounds, but please do not fear. She does not. She does this with good intentions, Lucas said. So the woman looked up at her son and smiled. Then she walked over to the man and sat next to him and looked at the prick mark. She left his finger. She rubbed it and told him once again how sorry she was for frightening him, all in her native Portuguese. Oddly, the man, who had only a few phrases and words memorized, seemed to understand every single word. Oh no, Lucas then asked his mother in Portuguese for the name. Sylvania looked into the man's eyes, his dark brown eyes, and smiled. Invernio te chimen Invernio, she said, for the glimmer of hope in her eye. She said, they call you, Lucas began. The man understood perfectly and interrupted with a strange sense of disbelief in his voice. Winter, they call me Winter. Let's see. Celeste and her brother are talking, and Caroline Taylor is there. Or Corey, if you will. Now, Corey is related to Baxter Murphy, who works at the Lord Publishing. He's a newspaper guy, so he's trying to get dirt. He's trying to get dirt on the. Now, why he's trying to get dirt? That's the best thing here. What I like is it. Just because John writes a character and okay, this character's trying to get dirt for this character, John's not going to reveal that intention right away. He's going to build that, and that's what he's doing here. It's great character building and great character study because it gets into the consciousness and the soul of the characters who you're reading about, which is really good. Father Ryan and Fatima have a conversation. Give me 1 minute. Fatima tells Father Ryan about the child that her son and his girlfriend or wife have. That it's not their child. They adopted it, and there's something about this child. And, Father Ryan's listening to her. She proposes that they watch him. Um, but, Father Ryan, he knows there's a heaven and a hell. He believes in that. He believes that there are evil forces. He's seen these evil forces, especially in Caspian. So now knowing this, in a lot of ways, and I'm not saying this as a knock, I'm saying this that the character is somewhat becoming very Kolchak in a sense. He's getting into one paranormal situation and not sure if he's trying to be, but he's not like going, oh, this situation is this. He's not presuming anything. He's walking into it with an open mind of, okay, we'll look into this. And I like that because it's not, for a character to have a foregone conclusion means the character knows everything. And there are characters you'll meet that are like that. But to have a character sort of be, I'll help you look into this. He's not prejudging any situation. He's trying to look at it from an objective point of view, though he is a priest. And that is interesting. I like that. Evie is buried alive in her grave. That's not nice. Jacqueline releases her so Evie can suffocate and actually die. Here's where I gotta give John a lot of credit to. This moment right here, where Evie is buried alive, way, 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 way back in the beginning, I feel like I'm a home run announcer. Evie had a dream about this exact moment, though it involved Rebecca. So you could say dream or premonition. But the fact that John brought this full circle here, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful job. That Jacqueline, she's a bitch. I say that with love. Fucking in a revolver to boot. So that's really, really good. Again, really great job. I'm going to do an actual read along of the next chapter. I wanted to do a sort of a summary of this one. A lot of good building here. There's a lot of. It's important to build your character from a storyteller standpoint, and that's what he's doing. And important to ask questions, but not answer every single one. Answer some, but not everything. And John does a great job with that. So, guys, link to Benight and Beguile will be in the description box. I got to go read the next chapter. You guys have a good day.